Hello and welcome. So today is another group policy day, and today what we will do is we will continue with our group policies. If you remember in our last video, we actually learned about different policies that we had for auditing, and then we also learned about some password policies and we tested them in our Windows 10 machine. Today we will continue with our group policy management and we will see what else can we learn with this group policy management, because this group policy management is basically huge. You can do a lot of things, but we will only focus on the important ones that we actually need in our daily life most of the time. So last time we learned about this default domain policy, and I told you that this default domain policy is something that is at the high level, and anything that you change here, it is changed on a domain base, meaning that it will be applied to all users and computers. So whatever change you make on the default domain policy, it will apply it on everything that is under it. So default domain policy, what is default domain policy? Default domain policy is a default policy that is domain based policy, meaning that when you change something here, it is gonna apply it for the entire domain. It is going to change it for the entire domain. Today, one thing that I want to show you is that how can we work with different policies. Let's just say that if you remember in our last video, we said our password should be 12 characters, right? Our password should be 12 characters, it should be complex. But what happens is in HR department, there is a HR manager. His name is Farhad. Farhad is an HR manager. He comes to you and say, "Hey, you know what? I don't want to use 12 characters. I want to use 8 characters. And I want to basically use clear password. This is not something that we do in live environment because we have to think about security, right? So this I think is not a good example, but let's take another example, because password policy is important and it should be applied to everyone. Let's just say that in this default domain policy, we have a policy that says users should not be able to basically use control panel, right? So let's create a new policy so we can demonstrate that in a good way. So this default domain policy is domain based, but if we want to create a new policy, how do we do that? You simply right click and then you can say create a GPO in this domain and link it here. So you will say create me a new group policy. In here we will say control panel uh, restriction policy. So what do we want to do? We want to create a control panel restriction policy so Kawa and Farhad is not able to basically open control panel, or they are not able to make changes in the control panel, right? Click on OK. Once you click, you can see that it is now created here. What does it mean if it's created here? It means anything that's under it, this policy will apply. So once you create the policy, right now the policy is empty. There is no settings in this policy. There are no settings in this policy because this is a new policy that we just created. You can click on edit. Once you click on edit, what you can do is you can simply click Alright, so if you want to restrict control panel, you can basically go under user settings, and then if you go to policies, in here you have administrative template, and in here you will see control panel. So you see you have control panel here. So what is this control panel? This is the policy for control panel. So you see you have one thing here. Um, Prohibit access to control panel and PC settings. If I enable this, what will happen? If I enable this, now users will not be able to open or use control panel, right? Hide specified control panel items. I think this is very restrict, right? Maybe you don't want to restrict access to control panel for your users because it is too much. But sometimes you may want, right? So in here we said prohibit access to control panel and setting. This will block control panel. Let's create another policy. In this policy we will say control panel um, half restriction. Half restriction, we will do what? We will define some other restrictions here. So I will simply right click, and this time I will not fully block. I will not fully block control panel. Policies, administrative template, control panel, hide specified control panel item. Let's just say that I don't want Kawa to see what? I don't want Kawa to see, for example, what do we have in control panel? Let me see. Uh, so this is control panel. I don't want Kawa to see uh, mouse. Mouse settings. I don't want Kawa to see um, region settings. I don't want Kawa to see power options. That's it. Press OK, press OK, that's all. Now, um, in here there are other policies too. You can go and check them out. These are different policies. For example, high setting tabs, display control panel item, personalize, prevent changing desktop background. Let's do this one too. Okay, so I don't want Kawa to change desktop background. So I will enable this, so Kawa will not be able to change desktop background. Okay, password protect, you can read all of these are very straightforward. You can read them, the printer, all those things. So let's configure just these options. Right now it's applied on a domain base. Let me delete it from here, and what we will do is we will simply assign it to an OU or organizational unit where Kawa user is. So if I come here, let me go to Active Directory. Let me check where is Kawa's user and Farhad's user or Zia's user or whoever. Let's first find out where the users are. So in here, if I go to knowledge trains, I should be able to see some objects here. So finance department, users. Okay, it's taking a little bit time to load, but we can wait. Okay, Zia. Okay, Zia is on finance department. So we want Zia to do what? To use. Zia should not be able to use control panel at all. And in here you can see that if I click on finance department, Group policy inheritance, what does it mean? It means the policy is coming from the top and it's applied here. So this is applied to Zia right now. Now let's go to HR and see who is in HR department. Um, if there are any users. It's loading. Let's wait and see. Okay, Omejan and Kawa. Okay, so in here what we will do is we will say link an existing GPO because we already created it, and that's half restriction. Half restriction. Now half restriction is applied, but you can see that this policy is also applied. So we have to disable this for HR. How can you do that? You can say right click, block policy inheritance. Block policy inheritance will block all the policies that is coming from the top. Now you can see I only have one policy applied. I have only one policy applied. Now, if you ask me, hey Purvis, how about this default domain policy? It's not applied anymore. How about our password policies? We want to make sure that the password policies applies here. What should we do? We want this domain policy to be applied too. You can simply right click on it and say enforce. So if you enforce a policy, what it does is it basically forces the policy. You see, it's back. When you enforce, even if it's coming from the top and you have inherited, it will be applied. So after enforcing it, you can see we have these. Now we will test it. So Zia in the finance department should not be able to access the control panel at all. Umaid or Kawa, they should be able to, but they should not see some of the icons that we specified, and also they should not be able to change the background. So let's test it. I don't remember the password for Zia, so I will simply reset it first, or I can try it. So Zia, what is his username? Let me check his username because his username might be different. Let's try. I'm not sure if it will work, but we can try it. Okay, looks like it's working. Alright, so we are logged in as Zia. Okay, so let's do one thing. I will try to go to control panel. The operation has been cancelled due to restriction in effect on this computer. Please contact your system administrator. See, Zia is not able to open what? Control panel. Now let's check Omejan or Kawa. What is Omejan's username? I think it was s.kawa for Kawa. Let's try s.kawa. Let's try. Yeah, good. Alright, so we are now logged in. If I let me try to change the desktop wallpaper first. Not here, I think it's here. Personalize. You see, I cannot change. I cannot change wallpaper. Do you see it? Now if I go to control panel, I can go, but let's see. Do you see mouse? Do you see mouse? I don't see mouse. What else did we block? Region. Do you see region? See, my computer has region, my computer has mouse, uh, my computer has power option, but do you see it here? No. Why? Because we blocked it. We said do not show power option, do not show mouse, do not show region. So that's how you can set a policy to a specific OU. That's how you can use block policy inheritance so that everything coming from up, it will not be applied. And if you want to force apply it, you right click on it and you say enforce. Enforce mean enable. How to disable a policy? Let's just say this policy is not working and you want to disable it. You don't want to delete it. You don't want to delete it because you need it, but you want to disable it. How do you do that? Right click and click here, link enabled. You see this check mark? It means it's enabled. Now it's disabled. You want to enable it again? Enable. If you click on details, it gives you information about who is the owner and when it was created. If you click on system settings, let's just say that you have a policy. This is a policy, right? This is a policy and you want to see the settings. So if you are looking for a policy, what policies are applied here, what settings are here, if you right click and edit, it's gonna take a lot of time. But if you want to see what the specific policies are applied here, you click on settings tab and then it tells you all those settings. You see, it tells you delegation. If you come down, control panel, hide the specified control panel item. This is what we enabled and this is what we specified. You remember? And then control panel personalization, prevent changing desktop background. So this is what we enabled. So this policy, what does it tell us? It tells us that there are two settings enabled. The first one is this, the second one is this. So that's how you can check the policies settings. That's how you can check the policy settings.